What's going on, everybody? It is the OCPD coach, Shannon Williams here, and I'm back with another video. It's so funny because my son actually does my intro now, and I did it the exact way he did it, just probably not as good. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the OCPD coach here again with hopefully some valuable insight for you all. So I wanted to just take a second to talk about something that has been a huge area of personal improvement for myself. This is something that I've struggled with as far as I can remember. I'm talking all the way back right out of high school. I've struggled with this, and it's something that I've continued to struggle with even in my adulthood, and that is frugality. So I wanted to talk about some of the ways that I have recently been dealing with overcoming frugality, improving the way that I spend money, improving my relationship with giving, and also how I have been inflicted with different wounds in my childhood that have caused it. So I'm hoping just this conversation I'm looking to have here, or this monologue, can help give some insight. Now, I'm the type of person where I'm very transparent. I wear everything on my sleeve, and it probably is no secret, but I'm Christian. And I was raised in a Christian home. I did have some problems with faith in different areas of my life growing up where I didn't know where my religion ties lied. And this is likely due to my indecision that I've always dealt with. But over the past year, it has really just strengthened. I've been more into my faith than I've ever been. And due to that, I actually want to bring in some of the principles that I have been learning in my faith walk into this conversation because they have been extremely valuable to me. So before that, I want to just talk a little bit about what can make you frugal, or what I believe made me frugal. So I grew up in Detroit. That's where I was born and raised. And my family, we were never rich. We were well off, but we were never rich. So I grew up with my grandfather primarily as a young child, and my grandmother, because they lived right next door. And I would spend a lot of time with my grandfather. And he would always tell me waste makes haste. And we didn't waste food on a plate. If you asked for food, you ate every single bite. And that's not a big issue. I mean, I loved eating, so this wasn't a big thing for me. But it did instill that into me that you do not waste things. Like if you get something, you use all of it, or you make the best of it. And it also turned into that financially. So anytime I would make money, it would be the same sentiment. If it wasn't for him, my mother would be, also giving it where it was, hey, save your money, don't just blow your money. And these are all great principles. Well, we did have a couple rough patches in life. And growing up financially, we did have a couple times where things were not as smooth as they used to be. And I think what it creates is financial trauma, because when you lose money, you don't know if you'll ever get it back, or if you'll ever be able to live the same lifestyle you lived previously. So all of these different things can definitely play a factor. And I remember when we didn't have money for a little bit of time, there was this sense of depression or heavy sadness just in the home. Like that's something that, we dealt with, and it wasn't comfortable. It was very uncomfortable. So obviously, these are not things that you ever want to repeat. These are not situations that you ever want to put yourself back in. And naturally, if you are, somebody who learns from mistakes, you should be able to take those issues, or take those feelings, those emotions, that sadness, and make it where you never have to go back there again. And you'll do everything in your power to make that be the case. Fast forward a couple of years, and now I'm in college, and I blew through all of my money that I got from the grants and different things that came for books, and I got clothes and just stuff that high schoolers typically would spend money on, just wasteful. So I ran out of money, and my mother was teaching me a lesson. She told me, you used all your money up, you maxed your credit card out, kind of figure it out. And she would still help me with taking care of my expenses for the dorm and everything. But what I would do during that time was I started selling my clothes. So I would go to Plato's Closet and sell my clothes just so I get a $5 pizza, or so I can get something to drink from the vending machine, or doing different jobs, building websites and using that money for other expenses that I needed. And I had that same mindset now, like of me going through the struggle myself as an adult now. Now I had that same feeling of, hey, I feel like I'm getting back to where I was in that dark place, and I don't want to be there. So instead, I started working harder. I would do 2 a.m. work. I would go to class, I would go to work, and then I would work on my projects up to 2 a.m. So I'm up all day long just working. And anytime I got money, I'm throwing it at my projects because I'm thinking of it as investing. Ended up getting scammed out of like $2,000 from somebody in a different country because I didn't know what I was doing at a young age, and just continuously just made poor financial decisions that I thought were actual investments into my projects, and I thought these were great things. So now I'm starting to become distrustful of spending money. So I had the fear growing up, which was from the lack, when we had a lack of money. Now I have distrust with spending money, and I'm thinking, hey, my money is best when I get it if it's kept with me. And that just continued, as I say, like it continued. Even when I made more money, I would put money in for a 401k, so I was being smart with some of my money, but I would still be very tight on money. I would not spend it to buy clothes like I did when fresh out of high school. I kept the same flip-flops for years, kept the same pair of shorts for years, pairs of shorts, not just one pair, same, boxers, like all of these different things, t-shirts, clothes, jogging. Like I had probably 4 outfits that I would wear religiously, where I would just switch up the shirts or switch up the jogging pants or the hoodie that I'm wearing. I was really tight on money, and I was making decent money. I think I was probably at that age, at 19, I think I was making about $50,000 to $60,000 a year, and I had all of my bills taken care of. Now this was the thing, I would not spend money on anything for fun, but my rent was always paid on time, if not early. My light bill was always paid, my water bill, every single bill that I had, cell phone bill, everything was paid. I even went to Metro PCS. I downgraded my phone service and got on like a $20 line because I'm like, it's the same service. So I was very financially smart. It's just, and this is the case with a lot of the OCPD traits, sometimes that positive trait of being very financially responsible, when it's turned up and it's turned up to like 110, it becomes frugal. It becomes frugality. It becomes harder for you to spend money. All right, so let me just give you an example of what that might look like, because a lot of times this frugality does not get acknowledged, or it's not really apparent what it might be. You might just think this person is really responsible. So frugality for me was, I would not spend money on things that were fun, but I would always be willing to spend money on things that were either mandatory, such as the bills, or things that I deemed to be, I would have like these splurge moments where one day I'd be like, hey, I just want to get this product that will make me happy. And it would be something that's really expensive. So I would go from not spending any money, and I would not spend any money on things I wanted for 3 months. But then let's say a new gaming console, or not even gaming console, I didn't buy those, a gaming PC came out, and I knew that I could potentially make money if I purchased that. It could be something that's $4,000. I've never spent that much on one device, but it could be something that's $2,000, and I would say, hey, that is something that is actually worth me purchasing. So I would not spend money on things that are like $20, like $20 t-shirts, and just continuously recycling my shoes and getting different things. But if there was something that was a big purchase that I thought I could make money on, and it was more of an investment, no problem. I would have obviously debated in my head, but I wouldn't have as much of a hard time. I would get it. So a lot of times it might look like that. Or spending money on others is also something that was a little bit tricky. So anytime there were holidays, Christmas, what's another one, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, those are the days where I would not be big on getting gifts. I would get gifts because I knew the person wanted a gift. But it wouldn't be because I wanted to really just give. I wasn't really a giving person. It was really selfish, honestly. The frugality, a lot of times, is selfish. And it's not intentionally me trying to be selfish and say I want to hold all my money, but I need this to survive. I need this to make sure I'm not in a bad situation again. Or as I always justified it, I can't take care of you if I'm not taking care of myself. And I still partially believe that, or I still believe that, but I think there are ways that you can dissect that and actually make it apply negatively if you allow yourself to. So those are some ways it looked. Another way, I'm just talking off dome here, but I didn't like when other people spent money on me. So not only was I very tight with my money, I would actually be the same way with others. If they wanted to purchase me things, anytime it was my birthday or something, people call, hey, what do you want? Nothing, I'm good. I'm all right. Prom, my mom would go all out, get a nice car, do the whole shebang, and I'm like, no, I'll just drive my dad's car and be able to listen to my music and just drive that, and I don't want to spend any money. Graduation, coming out to actually walk the stage, I didn't want to do it. I just said, no, why do I need to walk the stage? Why do we need to pay for plane tickets to go to Florida? It doesn't make sense. We can use that money for something else. So always and I always come back to this with OCPD, but just hyper efficiency. That's how I always look at it, like trying to be really efficient. So with money, how can we be the most efficient with this money? And that's how I think if you start to look at OCPD in that way, and I'm not a therapist, I always say this, but I'll tell you what works for me and the things that I use for my clients. If you start to look at OCPD as your brain trying to just be super efficient, you can almost, I don't want to say trick your brain because I don't think that's cool, but you can wire your brain in a way where now you can look at efficiency in different ways in life and then still make progress towards being very efficient. And I'm hoping that makes sense. So let me actually give you a practical example. I am somebody who, I don't have a sense of smell. As long as I've been alive, I have never had a sense of smell. So when I go out to eat, I don't know what the food smells like. I don't know what my cologne smells like. When people obviously pass gas or do different things, I don't know what that smells like. I literally have no sense of smell. You can put a baby diaper up to my face and I can't smell anything, full of poop, can't do it. And this is something I've never known to smell, so it's something I've never known to miss. I don't miss not being able to smell because I've never known it. And that was a random thing, and I'm trying to make sure I get the point, to you all. But the reason I bring that up is I did not understand the value of cologne. This is something I never would have understood the value of because I can't smell it. And it was Kevin Samuels. I've actually watched some of his videos on just men improving as a man, and different things that he would say that actually stand out for men and allow you to be more of a candidate for other men to work with you or network with you, or people just want to be around you. And one of the big things that he always talks about is fragrance and different smells and different colognes. So me as somebody growing up, I used Axe body spray and I just would spray it on because I couldn't smell. So I like the colors. I would choose Axe body spray based off the colors or the design, like the dragons, stuff like that. And even when my step pops went away, he gave me a bunch of colognes. He didn't give them to me. They were available to me. And I didn't know what cologne to use on what day, when, where, no idea. So basically it was valueless to me since I did not know how to smell. So when I started watching those videos, I started taking cologne more serious. My barber used to sell cologne. I would grab cologne from him, and I think I got about 10 cheaper colognes just so I can alternate smells throughout the day. Well, come to find out, even though I couldn't smell it, my wife could. And my wife would often come to me and say, that smells good. Or there occasionally be days she's like, nah, I'm not a fan of that particular cologne. But what I started to realize is that even though I'm spending money on something that I don't see the immediate value in as far as it being financially beneficial, it's still something that improves efficiency in my relationship. So I have tiers, and this is something I can talk all day about this, but with my relationships, I break them into tiers. Tier 1 relationship, obviously that actually should change a little bit, and God should be my tier 1 relationship. That's like a tier 0 relationship. But tier 1, that is my wife and that's my son. That's the number one most important relationship to me in the world is my wife and my son. Number 2 relationship is when mother comes in, father comes in, parents come in. Siblings come into this one as well. And then you have tier 3 relationships. These are typically cousins or maybe work friends or people that you deal with day to day, but they are not tier 1, tier 2. So when I realized that I can improve my tier 1 relationship with my wife by spending a little money and smelling a little better, getting those extra little brownie points every once in a while, I realized, hey, this is actually allowing me to improve my efficiency in some capacity. I was still sticking with those cheaper colognes, but I would make sure every time I got my haircut, I would purchase a cologne. So it wasn't a big, I have to spend all this money at one time. It was little increments. So now I have a little backlog of cheaper colognes I can wear daily. And now recently, probably about 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks ago, a week ago, I actually purchased my first big cologne purchase. And this was Creed Aventus. This is the first time I actually went and spent over $100 on cologne. I think honestly the price was $365 for the cologne I got. When I purchased the cologne, I obviously mentioned that it improves my tier 1 relationship. That's an efficiency. Another way it improves my efficiency is that tier 3. So I skipped right over tier 2 because my family's not out here. But tier 3 relationship, now I'm able to, when I'm going and I'm at church or I'm at different functions, if I'm smelling good, people might be more likely to want to actually interact with me, give me different opportunities, work with me, just chat with me, open up. You never know. Like it's an additional thing that you can chat about. So that improves my tier 3 level of efficiency. And then hopping back over to tier 2, this is the second part of this. When I purchased that for myself and I spent $365, I thought about Father's Day coming up and said, wait, I know my stepfather's into cologne and my father-in-law might be into cologne as well. So I said, well, how about I get 3 of them? So now we're talking over $900 for cologne. This is something I never would have done at first. But I realized this increases my tier 2 relationship because these are parents. This increases that. And also, this is another thing that giving and spending money does. And I'm sure it's, scientific research on this, and I probably should actually start adding some of this in, but it's a level of dopamine. When you use your money and you do a big purchase and you get something for somebody else, it's invigorating. I want to use that word, and I'm going to use it, but it's an invigorating feeling. I think I'm using that correctly. It's just, it feels good. It's like, I want to do more. That's what it is. It just increases your desire to give and want to do more for people. So that is just one way that simple thing, me spending a little money on cologne, even though I can't smell it, I don't get the personal value of being able to say, this smells good. It still can improve efficiencies in my life in different areas. And those are just those areas. So now I wanted to actually take it back to the good book, the Bible. And eventually I want to do a series because, as I mentioned, religion has always been something like spirituality, religion has always been something that has been ingrained in me, but there have been times where I would get off track or I would have doubts or indecision on what religion I should be following, the logic, like trying to make logic of the Bible, all these different things. And what ultimately helped me, I'll just talk a little bit about it, but what ultimately helped me, first of all, I started to weigh the pros and cons of me choosing a certain religion. And I said, okay, well, if I choose Christianity, even if this is not something where I'm 100% understanding every single aspect of it, me going with Christianity has less of a negative potential effect than, or negative, trying to think of the word, consequence than me choosing another religion if Christianity is actually the religion to go with. And I'm hoping that makes sense, but I have considered other religions and I've done research and I just realized this is the one where it has an actual punishment for not following it. And I'd rather be on the safe, not sorry side of things. That's how it started. That's what really made me stick with Christianity originally. Then I started to build a relationship with God separately from that. And what I mean by that is I started to take more chances in life and have to have faith. Or certain situations would work out in ways that I had no idea, I couldn't have predicted it would work in that way. And he just continued to show me, hey, you have faith, I'll meet you halfway. You have faith, I'll meet you 75% of the way. You have faith, I'll give you the extra 25 to get you over the finish line. Different scenarios. I mean, moving, you gotta think. I moved from Michigan to Florida back in 2019 with my now wife with no real plan. I didn't know anybody out here. I just graduated from college online. So I came out here hoping that, first of all, I would be able to connect, network with people. Second off, I'm dealing with imposter syndrome because I was able to get into the job that I got when I was in Detroit. For me, like, I thought it was luck, but it was favor. On top of that, I've never been to the area I was moving. So the apartment, we found everything online. I don't recommend people just doing this, but we found everything online, and then we decided to get on the truck and make the move, make the trek all the way out to Florida, the 17-hour drive, and start our life up. Well, that week that we moved out here, we actually had a family cruise, so my family was coming down to Florida anyways. We were all going on a cruise, and that entire cruise, I was stressed out because I knew when I got off the cruise, there were no fun and games. I needed to figure out how I was going to pay bills. I needed to figure out where I could work, the laws here, all different types of things. And I was very stressed during that cruise to the point where I was not able to enjoy it. I literally worked. I was very combative. I wasn't fun to be around. I sucked as a person. Like, I really was not the type of person I would want to be around. I was an a-hole. I was an a-hole. I'm not gonna say it, but I was an a-hole. I definitely was. Not abusive, but I was an a-hole. I know how I am. So when I got off of the cruise, while I was on the cruise, I actually reached out, and this is the other thing, I didn't have internet until I paid. So that's the frugality. I didn't think it was worth purchasing internet. I'm like, no, I don't need it. I can make it work. I can just listen to the same album that I listened to for the past 3 years, the U2, Songs of Innocence. I still have that on my phone, and I still listen to it. So I'm thinking, no, I can just use this because I don't have extra money to pay for internet right now. I don't have extra money to keep going to get food and doing these different things, going out and buying clothes for the cruise. Like, I wore a t-shirt and basketball shorts the whole cruise. So I was really still in that frugality mindset. But I reached out to, his name is Tom LaCroix. I'm giving him a shout out right now. And I love giving shout outs to people because they deserve praise. And I reached out to Tom LaCroix on LinkedIn, and I told him, I said, hey, I just graduated from Full Sail, just moved out here, would love to network and just build my network and connect with you and see if, I could just be of any service, or basically really just networking. That's really what it was. So he obliged, and he said, we set up a coffee day, and we did that. I met with him. So this is the week after the cruise, and it's just me and my wife now, and went up to Full Sail, met with him, and it was the hope that I needed. It was the favor that I needed. On the spot, he said, I have a job for you, because he saw the work I was doing. And he also promised me that I could be able to meet Triple H because I was working on a wrestling game. That didn't happen. That's not his fault, though. There were some other things that kind of happened in the midst of it. But yeah, we were able to connect that day. He saw something in me. He said, I want to give this guy a chance and see what he can do. So 2 weeks later, he brings me on board. I actually do an interview with his team. The team, they love me. They hired me on the spot. It's great. I'm doing training for 2 weeks. Another 2 weeks later, I get a call from Disney. And Disney's like, hey, we have an internship program. Would you like to do it? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So in Full Sail, obviously, they're very pro getting their students into position. So from there, this is January. I moved to, my timeline, don't judge me because everything should line up, but I moved to Florida October. I started with Disney January of 2020. I'm there for 3 months. And this is all favor. This is what I'm saying, these chances, reaching out to people, going and doing the job, even though it might not be the job that I think I'm probably qualified for. I might think I'm overqualified for in that moment. I'm still doing every step of the way. I'm still having faith. I'm still being appreciative of the opportunity. So I'm at Disney for 3 months. I network with some amazing individuals. I'm actually slated to stay for an entire 12 months, and COVID happens and shuts everything down. Now, I didn't, in that moment, instead of me getting to the point where I'm like, oh God, why did you do this to me? You failed me. You set me up and let me come out here and get all excited and, get the door slammed in my face. That wasn't my attitude at all. What I actually did, and I do this all the time, I always have plans in case things don't work out. And I have the same whiteboard from Detroit. And I took that whiteboard and I said, okay, if this isn't working out, I want to learn how to program these 5 disciplines. And it was Java, AWS was on there heavy. I think C# was on there. Those were the ones that were on there. I think Kotlin might have been, but I don't remember. So I had that list, and as soon as the job was let go, I paid my rent 2 months early. Again, frugal. I'm like, have to be responsible. And I instantly started to figure out ways that I could try to make money again. I get an opportunity because the person that I worked with, Travis, at Disney, he actually put in a great word for me at a game development studio out here. So now I'm making games there for 2 months. Disney calls me back, and I'm going to tell you this because this is the craziest thing, but this all ties back to frugality, faith, and all of this stuff. I get the call back to come back to Disney. This time it's going to be Disney's Disney Plus, the Disney streaming service. This is happening the end of August, so this is the week before my birthday. My wife now, but she was my fiance at the time, and I decided to get married. Her father's a pastor. I wanted her father to be the one to walk her down the aisle. So we needed to go back to Michigan in order to make that happen. So we go back to Michigan in August. We find out that we are actually expecting a baby. Yay. And we want our baby to obviously be born in our married home as well. So this was even more motivation for us to say, we can do the trip now in August. I mean, the world shut down. So that, and then the call, that all of that happens in the same week. But I always attribute this back to obedience, to God saying, we want to get married, we want to do things the right way, we want to actually get on the right track. So we go down to Michigan. I get the call about the job that in my head, I'm absolutely not qualified for. I'm not a software engineer, even though I wanted to learn these disciplines and I wrote them out. I didn't get a chance to really get comfortable with them. But I'm very transparent and I tell them that. And they say, okay, cool, we'll give you a call back. While I'm on the road, right before I get on the road, I have my first interview. While we were in Detroit, the day before the wedding, I'm working on my wedding day, by the way, but the day before the wedding, I have my first interview, or my last interview, with Joe Catalani. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And he, amazing leader. But he was actually the person who we had a conversation and we bonded over professional wrestling. Like literally, that's what we bonded over. And I was working on a wrestling game at that time. So the fact that I had the wrestling game and somebody put a good word in for me, he was willing to take a chance on me. Again, favor. This is all just favor. And from that, the job interview, it went well. I thought it went well, even though I couldn't answer the question correctly. He still, showed me grace and taught me some things. So I thought it went well. We got married. So the day we get married, we announced to our family, we're having a baby, which is my son now. So, that was a celebration. On our way back home from the drive from Detroit, it's a 5-day drive, I get the news that they're giving me the position. So that was perfect. And again, as I said, I worked on my wedding day. They were even celebrating for me to get back into that position. So everything was just smooth sailing. And then we found out, hey, we're having a baby. This is an entirely new life. We needed to figure out how to be parents, everything that was needed for that. So we wound up having just really the best, it was the smoothest process. Found the doula, found the birth center. The 9 months was smooth. I was at every appointment. We made everything, did everything we needed to do for the baby. The labor was immaculate, perfect. No issues with labor. And just as I said, just continuously. There have been times where I've given money to people when I didn't really have it to give. And the next day, the money comes back somehow from another source. And I can't explain it. It's literally, it just builds your faith. And that's what I'm ultimately trying to get to, is taking chances in life. That's what really got me to the point where I'm at now, where my faith is incredibly strong. And it's something that I just pray continues to grow. All right, so now I wanted to focus back in on this. I can kind of get on tangents and talk for days. I would love to do live streams. That's another thing I wanted to add in right before this. But if you all would be interested in me doing live streams where I hop on and we can just talk and connect and learn about each other, or maybe I give some strategies, let me know. My wife keeps telling me to do live streams. I need to start listening to her more about this stuff because she always sees it before I do. Let me know if you'd be interested, because I really would love to talk to you all, not just at you. So I'm turning in my Bible here. And by the way, this is a Bible that my wife's father gave her with her name engraved. And he also gave me my own version of it with my name engraved before we started talking back to each other. So it's really sentimental to me to actually still have these and just remember the time where God knew who I was supposed to be with. And he made it where both of our worlds collided at the exact same time. We both were back available at the exact same time, like the exact same week we were both back available. And we reconnected because we talked before. So it was perfect. It's really sentimental. That's what I'm saying, just faith. Like, things always work out. I lose a job in Michigan because of some shenanigans, lose my business, a relationship I'm in that ends. Everything happens in the exact same time. My wife comes to the picture. I decide now I have nothing holding me to Michigan, and I move. And then everything kind of opens up here. It's just crazy. Like I said, faith. I could talk all day. But let me get into this. So going to Matthew chapter 25, and I'm starting at verse 14. Now, this is a parable, and this is all written in red, so this is supposed to be Jesus talking. But these parables are essentially stories that Jesus is using as examples of how we should behave and how we should not behave. And it's really interesting, some of these. So I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to tie it back to frugality, and I'm hoping that you all can see the connection. So listen to this. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. So basically, let's think of talents as bags of money. He gave 5 bags of money to one of his servants, 2 bags of money to one of the other servants, and then 1 bag of money to the last servant. And so this is the next part. To every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. So taking that, they're basically saying he gave the money or the talents to the bags of money to his servants based on what he thought they would do or could do. And that's what it's saying when it says ability here. And then he took off. So now the actual king took off. So his servants are left with the goods. Next, so now I'm on verse 16. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same and made them another 5 talents. And likewise, he that had 2, he also gained another 2. So now we're seeing that they took the money and doubled the money. Those 2 first servants. One had 5, took it up to 10. One had 2. Now he's at 4. And he that received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. Now this is the servant that had 1 bag. Instead of him going and using that money or using the talents to actually improve and grow, multiply, he took it and he hid it away. He played it safe. And it made me think, how often do we play it safe? Where we take the money, we hide it, we don't use it. Let me get back to this though. After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoned with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliveredst unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Verse 22. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. This is their Lord with the two servants who took the money and multiplied, actually grew it, happy, saying, you did a great thing. You are going to be given more because you were able to do this with what I gave you. Positive. Let's keep going. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art an hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. I'm translating this stuff because these words are so ancient now. His Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant. Wicked and slothful. Slothful can also be looked at as lazy. I think that's a great word to interpret that as. Thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received my own with usury. I'm thinking that's interest, so with more, or gain. 28. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him with half 10 talents. I actually outlined this verse, or highlighted this verse. This parable is something that I heard it for the first time, I think, or the first time I can remember, probably 2 months ago at Elevation Church. And I was in leadership training and had to give essentially my own prep talk, or it's called a rally, but it's just getting everybody engaged and ready to do what we need to do for the day. I even recited it to my wife this morning. This has to be my favorite Bible verse currently, because it is me looking at myself from a different perspective. Because I've always been the servant that had one. I've always been the one who, you give me something and I'll put it away. I'll save it. It's like I'm trying to go and I don't have faith that God can multiply. That has been something I've dealt with for a long time. And it's impacted my relationship with my wife, myself, people that I could consider friends, my growth, so business opportunities, investing in different things for just self-improvement. It's always been something I've dealt with. So we're in line 28, or verse 28, where we have, take therefore the talent from him, from the one, and give it unto him with half 10 talents. That is what I don't want God to think of me. That is what I don't want anybody to think of me, even outside of religion. Even if you're in business, you don't want to be the person where people are looking at you as, we should give them the smallest budget because they're going to do everything they can to cut corners. And instead, even though we have the money to give, let's give that money or that budget to somebody who already has a big budget, because they'll at least do something with it. Relationships. Why would your spouse consider giving you time? So outside of money, what about time? If with the time that you have, you only want to use your time for work, they can give that time to something else, social media, maybe a family member. Like, that time that they have to give you is also a resource that you can say, hey, maybe instead of me always just trying to work all day long or focus on things every single second, as I mentioned, me working on my wedding day, like, we'd never do that again. But things like that, my wife could have taken that and said, okay, well, you want to work on your wedding day and that's what you value the most right now with your time. I'm going to spend my time and go and hang with family by myself. And if I had come to the wedding, I come to the wedding. Like, that's something that could have happened. And honestly, maturity is me trying to realize that she would have been justified in that. I don't want anybody to think of me like that. And I hope that you all can also resonate and feel the same way, where you don't want to be looked at as the cheap out who's scared You want to be the one who's bold, who has faith, and knows if I do give this, if I do invest this, there is potential for me to make it back. And if I don't make it back here, there are ways where I can make money, or in whatever the resource might be, actually improve it over time. So I love to talk about, this is one more thing, time. I always look at time as a resource, as important as money. If I'm giving all of my time to something and it's not really getting me the benefits that I need, then maybe I need to bring other people in and spend money to increase my time or maximize my time. Like, all of these different things work together. So I'm keep going. So verse 29, for unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So I'm stopping here because I think that parable it paints the picture that I want you all to just start to consider. I mean, even if you're not Christian, like I said, this can apply to your life in different ways. And I am a walking testimony. And one thing, anybody who watches this channel knows, I'm always authentic. I'm always transparent. I'm not lying to you and blowing smoke up your butt. Don't care to do that. Every single time I've given, even if it's given to myself or given to my son or given to my wife, it comes back. It does not always have to come back in money either. Sometimes I spend, my son, he's into professional wrestling now, and he's into action figures just like I was into action figures. So after we go to a class and they say he did great, I take him to the action figure store and we spend probably $150 to $200 just on action figures for him because he did great. And when we get home, he can't give me money back. But what he does give me is he gives me appreciation. He plays with his toys. He's excited. He gives me energy. My son will actually ask me to play with him. So he gives me friendship. Like, these things do not always have to be money. So I encourage you. I'm going to give you something practical really quickly. If you have a hard time with spending money and being frugal, start to figure out what benefits you can get if you spend money on this thing. So if I broke my life up into different categories, and I'll talk about this more in Jira as well, but I have spiritual improvement, family improvement, home improvement, relationship improvement, so building community, business improvement, mental health improvement, all of these different areas that different things can actually improve if I choose correctly. So one thing I will say is take the time and figure out, and I think I have this up on the OCPDcoach.com/resources, but there should be a value scale measure. And also, I have a printer. This is the crappy printer. My wife actually encouraged me to get a new printer, which is something where I would have just kept saying, no, I don't need a printer. I'll just keep going without a printer. But when I started to think about the benefits of me getting a printer, I'm like, hey, I can start printing documents off for when I'm doing my videos. I can laminate them and show you all what I'm talking about and walk through it. I can do a bunch of different things you can do with it. But basically, she encouraged me to get a printer. I got it. That was a test of my frugality. And now it has made it where we are going to be able to start printing these things off and showing them. But I should have that document up as the value scale measure or something to that extent. And you should think about your life and think about all of the things that are important to you, as well as putting them into categories that you can work towards improving. So, or work towards building day to day. So a lot of us have times with having fun, just going out and relaxing. That's something where I would say that's mental health for me. And this is something that goes back into productivity. But productivity does not always have to be work. Productivity can be being productive towards improving your mental health. Productivity can be being productive as far as making your family feel like you're available, like you're there. Being productive can be finding a way to start reading the Bible if that's your religion, or any other type of book that can get you closer to faith, or volunteering. You can literally have a section in your value scale for being a giver, which is blessed. And that would be something where you could start having tasks that help you give. That's something where you could be productive. You can be a productive giver. So these are all different things that we can start to think about, and that's practical. You can make that list of things, and the next step after that is to start figuring out tasks to help you actually make progress. Because a lot of times we make goals, but we don't set out actionable steps to help us achieve the goal. So I'll give you, this is a template for you. I love to give some templates. So if you are dealing with frugality and you want to improve, I would make that separate things. So I would have tier 1 relationship, tier 2 relationship, tier 3 relationship. I would have mental health. So that's you. I would have financial gain. I would have presentation or self-image. I would have community. And these different categories, I would have some of the following tasks. So for community, I would say pick one person, if you're in church or whatever community that you might want to be part of, pick one person each month that you could give a gift to. This gift does not have to be a $500 gift to start. You can give somebody as small as 25 bucks or a gift card, like a Starbucks gift card. That'd be the first thing I would do, is find somebody in your community that you're trying to be part of, that you are part of, that you can get a gift for. And make it a different person. Don't keep making it the same person. Really try to diversify that community. That's what's going to allow you to be part of the community even more, is when you start to meet new people and get outside of your bubble. Try to meet somebody new every week. That's what I try to do at church. Every Sunday, I try to meet at least one new person. If I can meet 2 people, that's great. Have a good conversation with them. Next thing I would say is a task would be talk with, if you're married or you have a significant other, talk with your spouse or significant other about how your frugality impacts them. Because a lot of times we have no idea just how our selfishness, as I put it earlier, even though it's not what we're trying to be, can impact the people that are around us. If people want to give and you keep blocking them from giving to you, how does that make them feel? Would that make them want to stop giving to you? Would that build resentment because now they're never giving, but you shut it down, so they just think there's no reason to ever do it again? These are things to consider. So you need to have that conversation. So I would have it with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, if you know that your frugality has impacted somebody in tier 3. Tier 1 is mandatory though. If you have children, if you have spouses, talk with them and ask, hey, have you been impacted by my lack of spending on things that are outside of necessity, or by my rejection of you trying to spend on me? Just have the conversation and see if it has impacted them. They might be honest, hopefully they are, and that will be the first step. After that, we want to actually work on a detailed plan on how we can break the habit of frugality. So how can we start to rewire that way that we look at efficiency? And this is where I would say, with all of the different categories we broke up, now we have self-image. If you think you can improve your self-image with new clothes, maybe a watch. I've been getting really into watches recently, into really keeping my clothes nice that I wear day to day. Maybe that's something you do. And a nice task I did was buy 3 new polo shirts from Banana Republic. And that is something where it's not crazy expensive, but it's something where I'm spending money, investing in myself, but also breaks me out of the habit of not actually spending money on myself. So that's something that you can do. Another thing that you might want to do is as far as mental health. And this is something that we all could probably benefit from, but if you're the type of person where anytime you go on vacation, you feel the need to work, having the mental health category is something that you can use to get out of that habit. So for the mental health component, you could say, pay for a hotel room for a week. Oh no, that's a long time. Pay for a hotel room for a weekend and take no form of work with me. So that means no laptop, if that's what you do. If you're on your cell phone, put it on Do Not Disturb. Make it where you cannot be accessed. And that is productivity for your mental health. That's productivity if you're taking a spouse. For your tier 1 relationship, that's productivity in your situation of being more financially available. And then all of these things, every single time that you practice just spending money in ways that It's not crazy or insane, but it does help you move the ball forward in some area of your life. You're going to realize that all of these things actually contribute to your overall ability to have a healthier relationship with money. Another thing I would say is budget. Budgeting is something, I've watched the Ramsey show so much, as well as the Money Guy show and even Caleb Hammer. And these are people who talk with individuals about their spending habits and their money. The Money Guy show, they talk big on retirement or things you can do with your money. Listen to these people talk about budgets. The relationships with money can improve with healthy budgets. Listen to Caleb Hammer when he has people on there. He actually makes budgets with them to see if you can find individuals who might be in similar situations as you. Spend some time watching these videos. And then after you watch these videos, you have a good understanding. Maybe you want to work with a financial advisor. Actually create a budget. Inside of your budget, it might be tight. Try to at least get $25 or $50 a month for just fun. And that $25, I went up from 25 to 50 because I still want you to give to one person each month. But that 25 is for you to give to yourself. And it's different ways you can do it. If you can go more, so you can do the hotel room and do these different things, go more. But try to actually make space where you know where money is going, you're saving a little bit, and you're still able to make time for enjoying the money that you make. I wanted to talk about retirement, but I'm not going to bring that up because that's an entirely new conversation. So those are some tangible steps. And another tangible step, and this is something that entrepreneurs, this is something that's going to be heavy for you, is if you're the type of person where you want to do everything for your business and you don't want to hire people because you don't trust them, as I mentioned, I had the distrust early, this is where you can then also improve your delegation skills. So one thing would be, if you had a business category, find 3 areas that you could find a better person to do the work than yourself. That would be the task, just finding them or finding those areas. After that, then you can go into making tasks for hiring individuals or scouting them or actually putting them to work. But what this does is, if you have the capital, obviously, now you get to spend the money you get to practice spending money and investing money, but also you get to work on your delegation skills as far as being able to say, okay, I can't do everything. Let me balance this out a little bit. And then that in turn helps with your workaholism, hopefully, because now you have more people to help you out. But then also it helps with your being burnt out and actually facing the burnout, because now you don't have as much of that. All of these things work together, and hopefully if you're in a relationship and if these are negatives in your relationship, now your relationships can improve because you're not as rigid. You are a little bit more flexible as far as your days and the different things you can do, or even just being so stressed out to the point where you're resentful of a spouse or somebody else because you think they could be doing more, but you made it hard. Like all these things work together. So that's why the frugality is, if you have this issue and you can get this, I'm not going to say under control 100%, but if you can start making progress towards it, because each day is a step, you will see strides of change in your life, or just portions or chunks of change in your life where you will feel more free. You will feel more like you will feel like a better person when you give. You will feel more on your stuff. You will feel more professional. You will feel as if you are actually doing things that need to be done and not cheaping out. So this is a long video, but when I come on these videos, I like to talk about things that need to be talked about. Frugality is something that you can work through. There are ways to do it. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take a lot of patience. It's going to take a lot of understanding. It's going to take some rewiring of things and looking at efficiency and being hyper efficient as an OCPD trait haver. And also the other thing that I mentioned, which was, sorry, it's a lawnmower going on outside. And I also have ADHD and I lost my train of thought, but the being hyper efficient, but then also being productive in different ways and looking at productivity differently. I want you all to have a healthy relationship with finance, with your tiered relationships, with business, with everything you do in life. I want it to be healthy. We just have to figure out what that balance looks like and how we can actually make it happen. All right, so that's it for me. As usual, I do coaching. If you are ever interested and you want to work with me directly, you can reach out at theocpdcoach.com. You can also email me directly at theocpdcoach@gmail.com. And you can email me directly and we can talk, or we can hop on a phone call. I have people calling my phone every once in a while now trying to get help, so that's something that we can do as well. And I'm just hopeful that me sharing my journey can help you in some way. I mean, that's ultimately what my goal is. That's ultimately what my goal is. So I'm gonna wrap this up. If you take anything from this, just be patient with yourself. That's the biggest thing. Be patient with yourself and try to every single day make progress. OCPD Coach out. I hope that you all keep fighting for your life. Peace.